Please tell us your full name, the position you hold, and how you got to hold that position.
My name is Marlene Richter. I'm the Executive Director of the Shade Tree Shelter, and I have had the honor of serving in this position for 4.5 years. It's an employment position that the Board of Trustees does the recruitment for. Beyond that, though, the experience of working in this community has prepared me to work here now under these circumstances of the crisis in our community and with the women, children, and their pets.
What is the crisis you're referring to?
The economic crisis that has reduced donations, increased need, and created the need for our community to pull together in order to survive.
Please tell us a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up, and your family of origin.
So I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I didn't live there very long. I grew up in southern Florida, near Miami. Left there as soon as high school was finished and went in the military, have worked all over, and then married somebody in the military and got to live in other places where he was stationed. And then we came here to southern Nevada almost 20 years ago and have now made this our home.
What, if any, religion were you raised in?
I wasn't raised in a religion, but I did enter into an amazing spiritual life at the age of 18 and have lived as a very spiritual woman ever since then.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I was active duty Air Force and doing a lot of searching, but that was very difficult to really find a home in the chapel system. As a very young person, it was really more geared toward families, and I wasn't married and I didn't have any family around me. So I went into the community with friends, and it was a revival. During the revival, there was scripture reading that was very commonplace, but it was the first time I heard it, and the first time I realized that salvation was something personal, and that a relationship with God was something that you could have every day, not just on Christmas or Easter, not just, as a prop, which is the way that a religion was in my household when I was growing up. So a completely different experience, and from that day forward, a connection to other people and a connection to our community and our country, and then global, realizing that the Creator made us for each other, with each other, and to support each other.
Please tell us about your post-secondary education.
My undergraduate work is in social work. Before that, I was a pre-med student. And again, that call to help. It didn't matter to me how I was able to help. But not very much time went by, and I realized that giving out cans of food was solving an issue for a moment, but it wasn't going to solve the issue that we were facing in our community or in our nation. So I went back to school at UNLV through ethics and policy studies so that I could find out how to make a bigger impact and be a part of what policies were shaping the services that were provided to the poor, to the hungry, to the disenfranchised. That program closed down and then reopened, and I went back again, and then the team left that was at the university at the time, so I'm all but thesis in ethics and policy studies.
So that means that even if you write your thesis, there's no one to turn it into.
That's right.
Do you hold any degrees, and if so, which ones?
My degree is undergraduate, a bachelor's in social work.
What is the mission of the Shade Tree?
The mission of the Shade Tree is to provide safe shelter for women and children in crisis and to offer life-changing opportunities that lead to self-sufficiency.
How long does an average client stay?
Well, there's two programs. A short-term program stay is probably about 11 to 14 days right now. It's very, very rapid turnover because of the crisis in our community. And then our long-term program we call transitional, and the average stay in that program right now is 9 months, but they can stay up to 2 years if they need to.
Where do they go when the short term is over?
Well, it's our goal to have them go to a transitional program or to reunite with family. Sometimes it's just very difficult to say something happened, but we help them bridge that fear with practicing what they're going to say, and then they go to another part of the country or back to somebody in our own community that they were able to tell what was going on.
When you say it like that, what I'm hearing that you're not saying is that they were raped or beaten or something like that.
So we serve two different groups of women and their children, those that are abused and those that are homeless. And so the answers are different for the reasons that people come to the Shade Tree seeking services. Sometimes they just need somewhere safe to be until they feel like they know what the resources are in our community. Sometimes they realize that the economy just isn't going to support them, and it's really better to look at a stay somewhere else in the nation. It just depends. And the range of ages and the number of children and when's the last time they worked, or if they're currently working, if they have a car, all these different things have to be dealt with. And so for every single person, that's dealt with in a different way.
What percentage of the people who walk through your door stay for the long-term program?
I think that answer is different at different times of the year. As an average, about 20% enter our transitional program. Each night we serve over 300 women and children, and so we can't accommodate all 300 people to stay in our program. We match them up with services for the veterans or other faith-based organizations in our community. They cross the bridge from here to there and then get picked up on case management and continue working on their plan after they leave.
Are a lot of your clients mentally ill?
Probably about 40 persons per day are staying with us that are experiencing some form of mental illness. It might be depression, it might be related to what brought them here, if they were beaten or raped or assaulted in some way and they're just feeling the after effects of that. That's situational. Other people are facing a lifetime of illness, and a part of that is to stay in the shelter because they might have worn out their welcome somewhere else.
Is that a common thing of the people that are living in the streets?
Well, there are a lot of people living in the streets that are mentally ill, and without identification and transportation and other basic things, they're not able to get medication, continue with their medication, have their medication adjusted, and reach some kind of plateau where then you can have a conversation about what might be next. We can never get them to that place. It's a very huge tragedy in any community, but it's a growing problem in our community. The last real-time count that was done was 26,000. But it's very difficult to count people sleeping in their cars and sleeping, and they're in hiding, and they've been in hiding, and they're afraid that they're going to go to jail or get, a ticket or get in trouble. Plus, they're so ashamed. It's very difficult to count. I don't know if we could count. I don't even know if 46,000 is a low number or a high number. I know that there are...
What's your gut tell you?
Yeah, there's thousands and thousands of people that were our neighbors that are now living in places that humans were never supposed to live.
Have a mental illness that they need the long-term supportive housing that you provide or other people provide.
They need more care than the Shade Tree can provide, because they actually need sort of medical care attached to their transitional housing until they get stabilized, and then someone to check in to make sure that they continue their medications and have what they need. There's not enough of those services.
Well, that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
So I was hoping you might tell me how many people you think need that.
I don't do street outreach, so I would be just
Pulling it up
answering.
right,
Yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable telling you out there how many people. I can tell you in here. At least 20 people per night need more services than we can provide. They can't care for themselves. They're not safe by themselves. They're not safe in the street. They can't put together a plan to get back on their feet. And that's not the same 20 every night. That's a different 20 every night.
When I looked at your resume, I noted that you've been mostly in homeless services, and you've changed jobs a few times, but they all seem to be promotions. You seem to be going up and up in the hierarchy of each organization. You actually used to work here at Shade Tree at a lower position
Yes.
than now you're the executive director. Were most of those changes career moves for you personally, or did you just see an opening where your service might add more value?
When I came into this work, all I wanted to do was work with people. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to make a difference. And that includes when I came here to the Shade Tree as the executive director. I don't look at it as a career path. If tomorrow I was supposed to go do street outreach and that's where I felt I was being called, that's what I would go do. It's not about title. There was a time in my life I thought title was important, and I thought a career ladder meant every 5 years you have to move up or you're a failure. But the truth is if we're doing what we're called to do, then we're where we're supposed to be. And for every move that I've made, some of them were not smart moves, and I found out quickly I was chasing the wrong thing. I went to the Interfaith Council for Worker Justice. I was a board member. And
I believe you were there 5 months.
I was, but I was a founding board member for bringing that work to our community, and I so believed that people had the right to have a voice. So when we were ready to expand and have the services provided on a 40-hour week or a 50-hour week instead of this cause, and then we kind of went dormant for 3 months or 4 months, or we as a board decided it was time to move forward. I thought I was the right person to do that here in Southern Nevada. But being a board member and being an employee or a director of a program are two very different approaches. And I realized that literally within weeks of walking in the door, that I did not agree with the philosophy.
So it was just a philosophical difference rather than, than the difficulty of managing a program.
It was the intricacies of taking a philosophy that looks so amazing about giving a worker their voice, or standing with workers who had been harmed in some way or work in unsafe circumstances. It was smarter for me to stay at Catholic Charities and then remain as a board member and use that power to stand with the worker than as a director and an employee to go and stand with the worker. My resources were so limited, and the project was just so much more brilliant when it was an all-volunteer corps. It was just, philosophically, it was...
And what had you been doing at Catholic Charities?
I was the director of social services.
What does that mean?
Preventing homelessness, bringing food to the hungry, paying rent so people could stay in their homes, going to the people that were living in substandard situations and moving them into dignified housing. Some of it was our own housing, some of it was partner relationships all through the community, but getting very poor people, whether they were seniors